Hey y'all, long time no see. I'm so nervous about even sitting down to record a video because it's been so long. But hey, it's Julesy, and yeah, at the top of this year, I launched the Smart Brown Girl Book Club, and then I took a hiatus. So very sorry because I truly did not mean for it to be so long. So most of that hiatus was heartbreak caused by niggas and institutions of higher learning controlled by the whites, but mostly niggas. And the other part has been my obsession with this book club that I launched. I mean, it's definitely been a slice of joy for me in this season of sadness. So a very big thank you to all of you who have joined, and a double thank you to those who actively engage. You just make my heart swell so much. Definitely brought a good chunk of joy into my life in an otherwise very murky time. And for everyone else, there's details in the description box on how to join the Smart Brown Girl Book Club. Now, I definitely need to do a better job promoting the book club. As an influencer, I'm a pretty bad, pretty horrible self-promoter. And it's kind of funny because my channel manager from YouTube told me that one of the things I need to improve is distinguishing what I do on each of my social media platforms. And it's like, okay, well, I talk shit and discuss news and politics on Twitter. I'm cute in daily life on Instagram. Facebook page we ain't doing nothing on because Facebook, well, I don't know what they doing. It's a wash. But the Facebook Smart Brown Girl Book Club group, now that's my hitter. And obviously the most pertinent of my content is right here on YouTube. So, I mean, subscribe because we're coming back. We're coming back. This time of Corona, when we are all self-quarantining, there's no excuse for me not to come back with the more fire, new fire, hot fire. Now, when I did the BookTube interview with Michelle Obama at the beginning of 2019, slight flex, there was a bit of fallout about no black booktubers being selected. Well, who am I? Who is she? I don't know why these black booktubers didn't even want to give me or acknowledge that I'm bookish or whatever nomenclature they've, created around their little corner of the YouTube verse. I don't really get included a lot in any of the defining categories of like who's who on YouTube. Left tube, bread tube, book tube, which is just over here doing her own thing. I historically have not done a ton of book reviews because folks don't really be watching them. But now that I have the book club, we about to get these book reviews, and it's okay if you're not interested. It's okay if you don't watch. I'm not pressuring nobody, but don't hit me up when we popping, talking about I ain't know you had a book club, because you're definitely gonna be late. Okay. In the Smart Brown Girl Book Club, we have 2 tracks of reading. The general track, which is light work, fun work, all the keys. And the complex theory track, where we make academic readings more accessible as we produce syllabi for both reading tracks. Now, I'm so proud of my syllabi cohort because they doing the damn thing with these syllabus that pretty much are reading guides to help enhance the conversation. And now I have a Smart Brown Girl designer who lays them out real nice for us, makes them real pretty. I printed this one out, but they're PDFs. We not killing the trees out here. We're being eco-friendly. But the syllabus we do for the book club is popping. And for the month of January, which was our inaugural month, we read When Chickenheads Come Home to Roost by Joan Morgan on the general track, and part 1 of A Voice from the South on the complex theory track. We started off with like the foundation of black feminism, which is necessary. I actually did a whole video series with the Smart Brown Girl syllabi cohort where we break down that very tiny but very hard to get through because the language is so antiquated and so dense. But it's such an informative little book. So definitely link up above and down in the description box. Go check out the Smart Brown Girl YouTube channel for that series. But to kick off this here review series, I am going to be reviewing our first read, When Chickenheads Come Home to Roost by, well, she's now Dr. Joan Morgan. The syllabus for this book was produced by Regina Strong, part of the syllabi cohort. Thank you, sis. I have a link down below if you're interested in purchasing it. It's our first syllabus, so the layout ain't that cute, but our most recent syllabus, all right. But again, reading guides that help to ensure that everyone really digests what we were reading and really inspire a dialogue and a conversation. And it's meant so you can participate more in the book club, and then you can also take it with you and have your own little group, talking with your homegirls over brunch, start your own little book club, have your own little book club meetings with your own crew. Okay, we all in the house now. It's a great time. Well, most all of us. Let me not, because Who girl? But When Chickenheads Come Home to Roost is a provocative title for a provocative book that brings us into the modern era of Black feminism, the word that scares everyone. The term, oh my gosh, Black feminism. In which Joan Morgan coins the term hip-hop feminist. Now, I first read this book, I want to say as a freshman in college. I was visiting my homegirl Lawana at NYU, and her friend, now line sister, now her line sister and my pro fight, Christine, was reading this book. And I feel like we were on the beach, like on Far Rockaway or something. And Christine highly recommended this book, which at the time had a bright lime green cover. Now, this is 2004, a whole 16 years ago. And at the time when I read it, the book made so much sense to me. Like, Morgan gives space for Black women to stand for our equality while still loving Black men and loving hip-hop music, even with the rampant misogyny that runs through said hip-hop music. And now this book was written in 1999, so reading it in 2004 in that era, chef's kiss, made so much sense. And I really remember this book as being my entry point into Black feminism. You know, I hadn't read any Audre Lorde. I hadn't been introduced to her at that point. I don't know if I read Bell Hooks before this. I think I might have tried. I was like, "Ooh, girl, this is something else." I do remember that I read Communion around the same time that I read When Chickenheads Come Home to Roost. And you know, like, I grew up in the suburbs of Philly, i.e. Delaware, between Beanie Siegel with State Property and the 5%ers or the Nation of Islam movement. There was a lot of mixed messages about the place and identity of Black women in society. And at 19, this was like a wonderful, wonderful book for me at 19 in 2004. Now, reading it again in 2020, 16 damn old years later, I don't know if this book has, I don't know, it's like, because when you say something hasn't aged well, it kind of induces that, like, it's not worth watching or considering. And I think as much as this book now, some of the overtures in it are problematic, I still think it is a worthwhile read and why we read it in the book club. Now, what's interesting is reading this book with a community within the Smart Brown Girl Book Club. Part of the focus of the book club is to provide accessibility to a diverse range of knowledge bases, which means we are open to a wide breadth of readers. And so yes, there's an undercurrent of readers, as there is within my audience, as there is within the space of Black women who watch YouTube and Black women on YouTube, who are not comfortable or familiar with Black feminism or the theory of Black feminism. When they read this book, like some of those that were in the book club, they really identified with many of the points in which Joan Morgan makes, particularly around how patriarchy can feel good, or how we still want men to do things for us, or to that word I can't ever say again that starts with an H. And rereading this book within my book club community reminds me of the importance of, you know, my little Smart Brown Girl Book Club. Because yes, I might not agree in my current iteration with a lot of this book now in modern context, but I can appreciate the entryway it gives to people who don't have access to the college classrooms or the handful of Black women sociologists teaching in these white ivory castles of higher learning. Dr. Brittany Cooper wrote the foreword for this book and the current edition of it, so this cover, where she focuses on the era in which the book was written and notes that it is important for many reasons. And to quote Dr. Cooper, in her unapologetic and willful assertion that hip-hop and stubbornness could and should go together, Joan wove together the Black girls who were raised on Toni Morrison and Bell Hooks and Gail Jones and Audre Lorde, and those raised on Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Flash, Beastie Boys, and Dougie Fresh, choosing to imbue them with the fierce Black girlitude as yet unmatched. Because Joan had the courage to put her whole self on the page, she made space for each and every one of us. End quote. Now, Dr. Cooper is so on point, and it's so funny because we are now reading Dr. Cooper for this month's general track. So, yeah, I mean, come get your life, come get it together, come join the book club. But the really important point here is to not start and stop with this book. It is an entry point, not the finish line. And within the book club, our readings build upon this. Morgan does make the point about how the feminism that precedes her, even the black feminism that precedes her, is rigid, written in academic language, making it hard to comprehend at times. Like when she says, when I thought about feminism, I thought of white women or black female intellectuals, academics, historians, authors, women who had little to do with my everyday life. Now, unfortunately, I was unsuccessful in getting Dr. Morgan for an interview in the book club because I'm a small fish in a big pond. And she did actually respond to me, but it was our booking agent or manager or whoever that man was who never responded, even though she was replying all to our emails, and she got back to me. He just never chimed in. But I would have loved to ask her how her viewpoint has evolved now that she herself is a PhD and professor at NYU. Now, the opening of the book, where she discusses how black feminists were some dope sisters, definitely respected elders, but they were not her crew, and crew is what mattered most. I did find some problematic tones, but remembering this book was written in 1999, there's plenty of grace to be given here. But there is definitely a classist tone to this book. It's very heteronormative, for sure. And some of the comments, like consensual trains on a 12-year-old, I'm very happy rape culture has evolved even in the slightest bit towards nah, that ain't it. But I do love her commitment to parsing out the relevancy of feminism for a modern late 90s young black woman. And because, yes, it do be some laboriously academic black feminist text. I mean, we just read Voice from South Carolina. We can all co-sign that shit. But you know, and complex theory in conjunction with this book, as I said earlier, was a voice from the South. And that little tiny book written in 1892 was hard as hell to get through, but a very necessary read. And to Morgan's point, without the power of memories, these phrases mean nothing. We can, and we are, cavalier about the intelligence that we have accrued through our own search for black women-centered knowledge. Word to Dr. Patricia Hill Collins, who, yes, we are currently reading on Complex Theory, Black Feminist Thought. I mean, I don't even know why y'all jumping in if you don't join the book club. Just come on, we doing a lot. It's great. But we do have to be mindful, to get back to the point, we do have to be mindful the privilege many of us have had to invoke in order to acquire said knowledge. And I do believe there's a much broader space for us to do better in that arena. Now, Morgan gives a ton of space for black men. I would say, unfortunately, she's not as gracious all the time. This is totally a 2020 lens to the vastness of black woman identity. The book is entitled When Chickenheads Come Home to Roost. And Morgan takes ire with the video vixen, colloquially known as a thot, formerly known simply as a hoe, and the single baby mamas. Now, she addresses in a very vulnerable way her own relationship with men. She talks about courting white men and how they may have treated her better, not because they were white, but because they had more of themselves to give. You know, acknowledging the trauma that black men and women have to work through and how that heavily impacts our ability to have intimate relationships, or should I say partnerships. But in addressing baby mothers, she relies on a misogynoir rhetoric, where she claims that at one point in time, you know, in African American history, marriage was an important value in the community. Now, Dr. Mary Frances Berry's The Politics of Parenthood, which is my favorite book to shout out to all y'all that be peddling in this anti-black woman rhetoric. The book was definitely published in 1993, okay? Now, it's a history book. It is an academic history book, but it's not, the language ain't that hard. It's really easy to read. I read it on my own. It's a snap your finger read, okay? Dr. Berry does historically disseminate this idea that somehow the black community has moved away from a value we once held versus white supremacy always having its hand around our neck, okay? Like, girl, what you thought? Now, I will definitely say again, okay, 1999 book being read in 2020, yes. But the goal of reading this as a collective is that we do want to interrogate it, and we do want to think a little deeper, and we want to question and follow through and synthesize and all those things that come up in reading this. It definitely struck me that the responsibility she puts on black women and the way she gives an ever so softer, feminine touch of concern and care to black men. Overall, I know I've talked a lot about the questionable, problematic aspects of the book, because it is what stuck out for me a lot in reading this and rereading it within the book club and this so very weird year of 2020, the whole ghetto. But I'm happy that we read this book in the book club. And I would definitely encourage you, if you have not, to pick this book up. Pick up this little bit, sweetie, and join the book club. You know, our book club is meant to be evergreen. So even though we read this in January and you might be joining at whatever point it is, we are always here to continue the discussion on this book and every book, past, present, future, we are reading. This little book is truly an intriguing read. It's easy to get through, quick to get through. You can download it on Audible. Use my Audible code. This is not sponsored because I won't be able to show physical books if it was sponsored. But 500, text Juicy to 500, use my link in the description box. Boop, boop, boop. But there are definitely people in the book club who read this book and again, absolutely loved it. And it made so much sense to them. We do have to be careful though that we continue our reading, that we continue our search for knowledge. And as we have these discussions about books, whose insights bring out a diverse range of opinion, then we give space for love, compassion, and respect to our peers who are engaging in a dialogue around it. I definitely think that even though there's a lot that I now currently take issue with in the book, that it being able to discuss it with people who are reading it with the modern lens and still very much so agree with it gave me a better understanding and perspective. It helps to expand your language and it helps to strengthen your own arguments, right? Because we don't always want to be in this echo chamber where everyone agrees with us, but we do want to be able to have a dialogue where we can have a diverse range of opinions and we can all grow from those opinions being respectfully interrogated and synthesized. That's what Smart Brown Girl Book Club was all about. To join the Smart Brown Girl Book Club, head over to www.smartbrowngirl.com. We have 2 tracks of membership, the general membership, which is free. You just sign up and it pulls you into our e-newsletter. The braces, bruh. It pulls you into our e-newsletter, which is the most important aspect of the book club, as it is how we communicate with everyone, and that's how we keep in touch and we keep up to date and let you know what we're reading. And when the syllabi is published and when we're hosting our live discussions and just all the good stuff, all the info that we have to give in the book club, the newsletter, please, if you are already subscribed, actually open it up and read it. I've been putting a lot of money, investing a lot into the book club. The newsletter is very popping. It's pretty. Then we have the Insider Track membership at $14.99 a month. That comes with a bunch of special perks that we will be rolling out over the course of this year. And part of that that's already rolled out is all Insider members get all syllabi for free as part of their membership. We produce 2 of these bad boys every month, so one for the general track and then one for the complex theory track, and they retail at $7.99 each. So it's already a good deal for insiders, along with, again, the special perks. We got a bookmark coming I'm very excited about that are going to be rolled out in the near future. And once we get past this coronavirus, live book events, hopefully, girl, this year is something else. This has definitely been a huge investment for me that I am truly committed to. And the Insider membership helps us to ensure that we pay the Black women who labor on this project an equitable rate. So thank you to everyone who's not only an insider, but also those who donate on my Patreon, where I am posting exclusive content, including my Pop Snark podcast, for those of you who have been requesting that I get back to doing Pop Snarks. Okay, so it's over on the Patreon in the podcast format. Thank you to everyone who supported, because all that money gets cycled back into being able to hire Black women. I'm not profiting from any of this currently, and I'm a little scared because it's a recession and we're not that far away from poverty. So thank you to everyone for your support. Find me everywhere on the internet, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, here on YouTube at Josie.